So I am Adam Rosenketter, and I am presenting for you guys LifeAlly, the new project that we're launching next month, and it is powered by Drupal. So a little bit about who I am and what we're doing here. So I'm Adam Rosenketter. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of LifeAlly. I'm also happen to be the Technical Director and Partner at Soul Design Company, who has partnered with LifeAlly. So I've been in the web design and development field for about 15 years and started Soul Design about 11 years ago. And I've kind of seen everything from early applications built on ASP all the way forward to nice open source systems that you don't have to pay for anymore. So kind of seen the whole gamut of things. And we partnered on all fronts with LifeAlly to build kind of the first comprehensive health, wellness, and lifestyle tool that is powered by Drupal. And just to give you a little bit of background and make sure we're on the same page, I am going to show you a quick video about LifeAlly. It's really more from the member experience side, and it's only about a minute long, so I'm going to show it, and then we'll move on, and I'll explain a little bit about how we're doing things, why we're doing them, and kind of what the technology behind it all is.
Imagine if you had someone in your life, an ally, who was dedicated to one thing, helping you live better. And imagine if this ally rewarded you every time you made a healthy choice. Welcome to LifeAlly, your partner in living better. When you make a healthy choice, we reward you with prizes, coupons, sweepstakes, gift cards, and more. We do this with tools, resources, and rewards to motivate you. Join LifeAlly, and with your free membership, you'll be connected to your favorite health and lifestyle partners and apps. Every time you take a healthy action, you'll earn rewards. Training for a 5K? When you track your run on an app like Runkeeper, it integrates with LifeAlly, earning you more rewards. As a LifeAlly member, you'll receive coupons and discounts for your favorite items and be rewarded for buying them. Our member community and LifeAlly experts are here to encourage you to live better every day, providing feedback and insight on a variety of topics, tools that work, resources that matter, and you rewarded. Join LifeAlly today and be rewarded.
Okay, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of background on the product that we're building and kind of why and what the intent is. And as we mentioned, we are pre-beta, so we're launching the site out next month, so we're pretty excited about that. A little bit about what this is. So really the idea behind LifeAlly is to create a health, wellness, and lifestyle tool that rewards you just for living a better life. All of that is aligned around being able to give you personalized information and resources and the ability to track information over time so that you can see what are the things that are helping you live that better life. And then, of course, we all know if you get rewarded for doing those things, it's going to help. So how do we do that? In order to make this all happen, we kind of focused on 4 key areas. Those were data aggregation, social gamification, personalization, and app integration, which are a lot of words ending in shun. And so basically the idea here was that we bring all these things together. We aggregate data from a number of different sources. We pull data about news and videos, app integration data, social data from various places like Facebook and Google+, and we put it in one easy-to-use place, and we personalize it to the individual. On the social gamification side, this is one of those terms that actually most people don't even know what it is, but the idea is simply that we allow people to interact both on our network as well as other existing social networks and compete for prizes and challenges and earn points and badges as they go. The other really important piece that I think is kind of the foundation of it is personalization. And as we were looking at LifeAlly as a product and we were planning this, my thought is we did not want to create just another website where you could look up information. You know, it's been done, that information is out there, and one of the frustrations that I have with most of those is that yes, you can go browse or search and find the information you're looking for. It's all out there, but it's difficult to save. Once you find something, you might bookmark it, you might be able to come back to it, and it's really not personalized at all for you. And so the idea was to find out a little bit more about that user, give them what we think they want from an interest standpoint and from a search standpoint, and make it easy to find, save, and come back to it. And the last piece here was the app integration, which may be the most important piece, and it's certainly one of the more important and interesting parts. So there are millions upon millions of mobile and tablet apps out there, and we knew that we're not going to convince a bunch of people to switch to the LifeAlly app, right? It's just not going to happen, and there's lots of things that do a great job at their particular purpose. So our thought was, why don't we integrate with those best-of-breed apps that align around our overall mission? And so anything that has to do with health, wellness, well-being, lifestyle, we look at the best-of-breed apps, and then we basically allow you to integrate those with your LifeAlly account. And so through all those kind of 4 facets, we decided this is what we're going to build. So then really, why Drupal? Why did we pick Drupal for LifeAlly? We looked at a lot of different systems. We looked at open source, we looked at closed source, we looked at portal systems, we looked at content management systems, and of course, we did consider building it ourselves from scratch, which we could do. I also know the downsides of that. I personally built my own CMS back in 2001, and then we built another one in 2005 or so, and I realized after going through those experiences that it is not a lot of fun to maintain a software system over time by yourself. And so as we started looking at things, I really wanted an ecosystem with a support of a developer community, and that was one of the things I thought was very important, a platform that was going to move along as things change and alter over time, and going completely custom would make that much more difficult. The other piece is that obviously we didn't want a completely closed ecosystem where it was difficult to add on to or extend it. You deal sometimes with the high licensing costs of some of those systems. So we pretty much immediately excluded some of those kind of big enterprise expensive systems. What we came down to was a few open source systems, and I'd already used Drupal on some projects and was pretty familiar with it. And as we went through that evaluation and we met with some industry experts like guys at MediaCurrent, we sort of realized this could meet our needs, that it could actually do what we needed it to do. And we might be stretching Drupal to a degree that people hadn't before in some cases, but that we felt it was a platform that we could build, maintain, and extend over a long period of time. So that's kind of over a period of time we came to that conclusion. It was, in fact, last year at this Drupal Business Summit conference that we made that final decision, and so it was after that. It's been less than a year since we kind of started that process. And I'm stuck. Okay, there we go. So, what were the needs that we had, and how did Drupal answer those? So, a couple of things. First, flexibility, both from a user interface perspective as well as from a data perspective. From a UI perspective, we did not want to be limited as to using certain templates or doing things a certain way and not having the ability to create custom designs and themes. And what we found after starting to come up with the designs, that it was not an issue working with Drupal theming, that we were able to basically design whatever we wanted to design in whatever way we wanted to, obviously using best practices, but that the user interface could match whatever we wanted to do on Drupal. But perhaps more importantly was the data. So the concept that Drupal has as a content type was interesting to me, because I knew we were bringing together content across a very wide variety of sources and a lot of different types of data. And we needed to take all that data, kind of mash it together, and be able to represent it back to the user in a really cohesive fashion. And the idea of Drupal's content types was able to kind of allow us to store all the data, personalize it, and serve it back up in an easy-to-use interface. So that flexibility was really important. And again, it did meet the needs here from a Drupal perspective. For a startup, obviously rapid development is very important. We simply couldn't spend years building this. We had to be able to start with something and develop, and we didn't want to have to build our own security system, our own templating system, our own theming system, our own module system. We could do all that, but it would certainly take some time, and again, you run into that custom build scenario of maintenance becoming an issue. So we were able to kind of stand on the shoulders of the original Drupal developers and leverage what had already been done and what continues to be done. Along those same lines, the existing modules and functionality that we're able to get. So the core Drupal modules are great and do a lot of things, but through all the contributed modules, all of a sudden we can do a lot of other things that we don't have to build ourselves, that we don't have to custom build every time we need a feature. Generally, we're able to find something that we can leverage, even if we have to change the UI a bit. We can generally use that, use even an API to tie into it, and leverage that existing functionality. Probably a reoccurring theme today was responsive. we knew we did not want to have separate versions of this for every different kind of mobile device and tablet out there. It would be difficult and expensive to do, so we needed for this to be responsive from the standpoint of the screens that are accessing it versus the device type. So we wanted on a tablet or a phone or a web browser on your computer for it to be able to size and adapt itself based upon that. We ended up settling on the Omega theme as the base theme, and then of course we've very much customized that to meet our needs for LifeAlly. Unified development methodology and platform. This was actually perhaps the most important reason for me, having kind of gone through a number of different systems and gone through a number of different development teams. This one was one of the most important factors to kind of weigh in was I wanted one unified way of doing things so that as you add to your team, you extend your team, you need to bring new people on either just for new functionality or to expand the horsepower of your team, that it didn't need to be a full learning curve every time you bring someone on. So the idea that you could bring someone in who was very familiar with Drupal, show them around, document it obviously, but have them come in and hit the ground running was really, really important. And like I said, perhaps the most important element from my standpoint. And then multilingual. We're launching this in the US and in other English-speaking countries, but over time we know that the idea is to go out into other countries that are not English-speaking, and the ability to have localization and internationalization is really important, that we can do that on one platform, that all the translation can be done inside of Drupal. And I recently did a different project where it's in 7 different languages, and we rolled it out in all 7 really rapidly with just a translation firm actually doing the translation in Drupal. So having seen that, I was really confident of Drupal's ability to handle our needs as we move forward with LifeAlly on that front. So features. I'm going to go through some of the core feature sets here, and then I'll explain a little bit in more detail how we're handling things. So as I mentioned before, personalization was kind of my pet peeves of what other sites I feel don't do well. And that goes to even ones that do personalization. It's a difficult thing to do, but we knew that we really needed to have an experience where a user could get what they needed to get out of it, that they could get recommended information that they may not even know exists, and they don't have to go searching for it. And so we started the idea of personalization with just being able to start with just profiling. You give us information, we give you back information that matches that. And then we started extending. So we start with that idea. You come in, you create your account. The more information you give us, obviously, the better. But initially, all we may know is age, gender, zip code, and we can start to personalize just based on that. So particularly as it relates to geography, there's certain kinds of deals and discounts that we know in your area, and we can personalize to some degree based on that. We might be able to personalize a bit just based on your gender, might be able to personalize a little bit based on your age, but it's somewhat limited. However, as you go, assuming that you want to answer these questions, we can also ask you questions based on your interests. We can also pull these in if you log in via Facebook, and we can pull some additional data from that. So we start to be able to get a better idea of who you are and what you may be interested in. So the problem is, of course, not everybody's going to fill this out. They may not want to. They can skip it. We're not going to enforce it. So we may not get that data. So how else can we gather it? So we came up with the idea that you've seen in other places, is the idea of rating the content. So giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and it's not a Facebook like or dislike. It's really telling us what it is you like or dislike, and we record all of those actions, and then we use that to kind of further segment you. And so the way that we're doing that is that thumbs up or down basically puts you in different segments of interests based on that like or dislike. Same thing goes for if you add something, that little star is a favorite. So if you add something as a favorite, we're going to make the assumption that's probably something that interests you because you just added it to be saved. And so we all throughout there, so any of the articles, any of the news, any of the recipes, any of the tools, all of those give you the ability to rate that content. And then we record that information and use that again to kind of further personalize that information back to you. So where does that get you? It gets you better information in a couple ways. So one, if you searched, it's going to weight search results up to the top based on your interests. So that'll work that way. But then additionally, you may not be searching for something all the time. So we're going to actually make recommendations based on that personalization. So when you come back to the site every time, you're going to probably get different recommendations based on what's current, what content we've imported, as well as what your profile says. And then, again, as you go, you may say, well, based on my profile, they think I like golf, but the fact is I'm awful at golf, and I don't want to play golf, and I never want to see a deal about golf. Well, you give it a thumbs down, and you won't. And so as we pull in deals and anything like that, as you start to do that, it pushes those things down and raises up the things that are most important to you. So it's not going to be perfect at first, but over time it's going to learn from you, and it's going to get better and better at predicting what you may or may not want to see. So that's the idea behind the personalization. Next core concept was data aggregation. So again, we didn't want people to have to go off to 15 different websites to get all the things that we feel like are important from the standpoint of a healthy human being, how to live a better life. You shouldn't have to go to 20, 50, 30 websites to do that. So we put all these things together, and it starts at the top here. So recipes, we've pulled together about 53,000 recipes that we've imported directly into Drupal, so they're actually Drupal content nodes. And the nice thing about that is that you can, again, rate those, you can comment, you can put any information about that, put comments on it. You can say this is a great recipe or it's an awful recipe, and we record all that information, and we record how it relates to you and possibly how it relates to other people like you. So based on that segmentation, again, people that might have similar interests or similar taste in the case of recipes. And we're not entirely limiting that and filtering that so that it's only healthy recipes. In fact, we might push all those to the top, so we're going to obviously give you the recipes that are a little bit better for you at the top. But you can search whatever you want to do, and if you want a high-fat recipe, you can probably get to that too. On the news side, we're aggregating news from a number of different sources and importing about 60 articles a day. So at launch, we'll have a couple thousand articles that are available for search and, again, for recommendations. And the same thing for videos at a smaller number, but we're importing videos on a daily basis having to do with health, wellness, and well-being. Events, we're aggregating events for over 5,000 cities. So basically, any metropolitan area, you're going to have something going on every weekend and perhaps every day in some cities. And these are things like 10Ks, 5Ks, tennis events, hiking, baseball games, all kinds of things that, again, we can kind of push to you based on your zip code, and then, again, based on your interest. Once we know you like one thing over another, we're going to do a better job of pushing that information directly to you, both via the actual website as well as via email. So again, we'll kind of push that content your way. You tell us if you like it or not. The health library is an interesting piece. So the health library are things similar to what you might find on WebMD. And so again, typically that's information that you search for because you have a specific problem, or you're really curious about one thing, or maybe your friend has an issue. And that's fine, and we give you the ability to do that as well. But the part that we wanted to make a little bit better was by importing all that content directly into Drupal. Once again, based on what you're viewing, we try to show you relevant information from the health library. So if you were, let's say we knew that you were a runner, and based on the fact that you linked up your Runkeeper account, and maybe you're looking at an article about running, well, if we take from the health library a lot of common injuries that runners have, which I know I do end up with a lot of those, we can put those right beside those so that you've got the relevant information on injuries, because all runners get injured at some point, and we're going to give you the information right there in a timely manner. And so the idea of kind of melding the information was a core piece of what we're trying to do here. And then the deals and discounts. So everyone probably gets countless emails on a daily basis from Groupon and Living Social and Scout Mob and all these different ones, and I do too, and most of them go in my junk mail. But there are some relevant deals there if you could filter them by your geographic area, by your gender, perhaps by your age, and then even more so by your interests. And so what we've done is we've aggregated daily deals from over 100 different sites, pull them all together, use taxonomy to segment them out, and again, then match them up with your interests, your geographic area, your gender, and those kinds of things. And then again, you help us determine what it shows you, because you're going to give us a rating up or down as to if you like it or not, and you'll again get that via email as well as via web. Another interesting piece here that we've worked with a partner on getting was the local grocery and pharmacy deals. And again, kind of all in the idea of helping you live a better life, which is going to save you money and you get fresher goods. They've basically aggregated all of the daily and weekly specials that grocery stores and pharmacies have on a national basis. And they've taken all those daily and weekly specials, and they've put them into one database, which we're importing. And so what that means is that I can, on any given day, look up on 30307, what are the grocery stores with specials in my area, and I'm going to see all the savings available to me, and I can browse and search based on those. I can also have them linked from recipes that I may want to cook. So it shows me I may want to cook this recipe. Well, where can I go in my area to actually get those goods at the best deal? And these are the kind of deals that you really get the best discount on, and it's also the fresher goods. The things that you find coupons for are typically what the manufacturer wants to push, and they're typically the boxed goods, the things that aren't quite as good for you. And so these are the things that actually we can continuously push that actually are relevant for you on a local basis. Next core piece is gamification and social sharing. So we started looking, and we knew that sharing would be highly important from a viral perspective. But what could we do there? We looked at what was built into Drupal out of the box. We looked at a number of contributed modules and a lot of different systems that are out there. And there was a lot of good stuff. We actually even started building down that road. And then we did look at a company called Gigya, which is probably one of the biggest players as it relates to social login, registration, sharing, and gamification. It ended up deciding to integrate them into our system. And what that basically got us was we're not highly dependent then on monitoring everything that Facebook and Google Plus and those guys do, because they change their systems on a, seems like, daily basis. And we leverage what they're doing to kind of keep up with those trends and the technologies as they change. They kind of help us implement those pieces in. So, that was one that saved us some time. It also gave us some additional functionality. So it really starts when you come and register with LifeAlly. You have the opportunity to sync up your accounts across a wide variety of social networks. So you can sync Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Foursquare, Google+. Runkeeper's a little bit different case because it's not exactly a social network, but it kind of is. When you do that, you're able to then obviously easily share out directly without logging into any of those. We're able to actually link your account to those accounts. We also have the opportunity then for rewarding you for some of the actions that you're taking on those social networks, as opposed to having to be directly on LifeAlly. So that syncing of accounts was a really important concept. And over time, as we add additional providers and as there's new social networks and there's new hot ones that come out, we can add to that list. We're not limited to it. In fact, we will most certainly add to that list, and it doesn't limit us in any way. We knew, obviously, that social sharing was highly important. This is a way that we're going to get some viral spread of the content inside of LifeAlly, as well as just getting people on board. So it's really baked into every aspect. And so every page, every recipe, every article, every video, every tool, basically everything in the site can be shared out on any of the major social networks. And again, if you've already linked your account, there's no logging in. It just happens automatically. So that was a big plus. And some of the functionality that Drupal has around that made it much, much easier to do that. The other thing that we got as we started integrating in Gigya was the ability to create challenges and have people compete amongst each other on those. And so we're creating these challenges that allow users to create challenges, as well as LifeAlly and our partners to create those challenges. And then based on activities that are happening, based on points that they're earning and things they're doing both online and off, we essentially set up these contests and let them run and then get more and more people involved. And of course, the idea is that you can earn real goods for doing some of these things. You can also earn the points that you're creating and earning to buy down additional rewards. And the last piece on here was points. So we originally had our own point system, which is actually using Drupal's user point module. And we still are using that, but we integrated Gigya's point system so that anything happening outside of LifeAlly could also count towards your point total. And so those actions that may occur on Facebook or may occur on Twitter or may occur on Foursquare, those can actually be linked right back in, and those activities that cause points to increase get sucked back into the overall points database. And so we're basically using user points to tie into Gigya's point system. And then from there, we leverage Gigya's ability to create badges and levels. So as you do a challenge, as you take an action, you kind of level your way up. You can earn badges, which is great. I mean, that's what Foursquare's been very good at getting people to do is, become the mayor, get this badge, get that badge. And some people like that. And we think that's great. But for us, that's just a little incentive. And we want people to basically do that along the way. We'll reward them with a little digital pat on the back. But ultimately, we want them to get real rewards out of it. So those levels get you from one point to another, and we encourage you. But ultimately, you have the idea that you can actually earn something real. So that leads me to the next point. So the rewards integration. Based on all of the experience of all the medical professionals involved in LifeAlly, and of which there are several, and one right over there, we knew that to have real behavior change happen, we had to have rewards and incentives behind it. It wasn't going to be good enough that someone says, hey, good job, Adam, you lost 5 pounds or you ran 5 miles. That'll motivate some people, but it certainly won't motivate everybody. And so we knew that we had to have real rewards that are part of this overall system. So what we did was we built our own rewards management system. We essentially leveraged all the pieces in terms of content types inside of Drupal to allow us to create those rewards. We can now create rewards and challenges, set them up, set up a start time and end time, the value of it, how many people can win it, and all those pieces are managed directly inside of Drupal. And then we use those to allow people to compete. So different kinds of things that we've created ourselves. So we have a monthly contest. So the person with the most points at the end of the month, they win the big prize. Not a chance to win, they win it. And in current one, for beta launch next month, it's actually a 7-day cruise. And so the person with the most points, they win it. They get a 7-day cruise, no money involved whatsoever. Obviously you can only give away so many of those, and so we have other contests as well. So we're doing weekly contests with smaller prizes. So these are things like iTunes gift cards, Amazon gift cards, restaurant.com certificates, magazine subscriptions, and things like that we can give away at a larger basis. And the idea there is that we calculate how many points everyone has, and then on a weekly basis, if you meet that minimum level, you're automatically entered into the weekly sweepstakes. So you got a minimum of 200, you're automatically entered, and you've got a chance to win one of these prizes. Again, no strings attached. We combine that with giveaways. So we're running a $50,000 giveaway. Again, just minimum point total, and you're automatically entered. And then perhaps most interesting, and something that I think will change over time, is the idea of the challenges. So we've basically given the concept that we can create challenges, and a simple challenge could be, check in at your gym 3 times over the next 2 weeks, and you earn points and a chance to win, something that's been put up. But when you involve partners and sponsors, it becomes even more interesting. So let's take an example of, say, if Kroger was a partner. They could put up Kroger gift cards, and anyone who checks in at Kroger, say 3 times over the next 2 weeks, could automatically get a Kroger gift card. And so it's good for the member, they just got a free gift card. It's good for Kroger because it drives them into the store, and it's good for LifeAlly because it got more interaction and engagement happening, and ultimately, that's what we're after. So that's kind of how we're setting up the contest, giveaways, and challenges at this point. It's going to morph and change over time, and our main intent was to set it up that was open enough that we could change it over time, that really we've got kind of an open reward system, and a reward could be anything. And the actions that it takes to get to that reward could be anything too. And so we're going to basically start with a certain set of things, and then we'll continue to expound and change those over time. Next thing, we know that people really like to share. I mean, Facebook has pretty much proved that out. And we knew that we had to give that ability. We had to give the ability to share everything out on social networks. People like doing that, particularly when they do something that they think is good or funny or interesting. But there are times when you may not want to push everything out on Facebook. So we knew we had to create our own community where you could create your own group, invite your own people to it, close it off if you want to. If there's someone that you specifically want to talk to, you can do that. And we, again, when it gets into kind of the health and wellness space, there could be issues where you want to talk to people who have the same issue or are like-minded. And so we wanted to give the ability to have that freedom to create whatever group you wanted to. So, the idea is that these groups can be created by individuals. They can set up discussion forums, blogs, events, photos, videos, and upload them to whatever degree they want. Again, it's open in terms of what you want to put or not put in a group. And then that also becomes pretty interesting when we start involving brands and other companies, because now we've got the same base functionality, and we're using organic groups for most of this, where we really just refaced the functionality that's part of organic groups, and we essentially are just calling their API hooks, and then we created our own interface around it. But we'll do the same thing as it relates to other companies and organizations. So now you've got a company or organization who may be putting up a specific reward, and they can have a different set of tools that they're going to be provided because they're a little bit different than an actual individual who wants to create a walking group, let's say. So again, one of those things that we're in the process of kind of working out with some of our partners and sponsors as to what that means for different brands. So again, I think probably one of the most interesting pieces and one of the most interesting challenges here was to integrate in with mobile apps that are out there, that are pre-existing. So again, the first one that I started looking at was Runkeeper. I've been a Runkeeper user since 2009, I think. I'm a pretty good brand evangelist, and I love the tool. I've used it for a long time. You're not going to convince me to go away from it. And I've tried other things like Nike Plus, but basically I'm going to stick with Runkeeper. And I'm going to use that when I go running, and that's great. We don't mind that, right? We actually want you to. So the idea is I go out for a run in the morning, I track my run with Runkeeper. By the time I get back, it syncs up with the Runkeeper servers. A couple minutes after that, it syncs up with the LifeAlly servers. Now I get an email saying, hey, great job, Adam, you just ran 3 miles, you earned 25 points. And so the idea is you can continue to use the tools that you want to use, and we'll reward you for it. And so I may not even have a direct touch on LifeAlly daily, but just by doing the things I already do, I can get things for it, and I can get a little bit of an incentive to kind of come back. And so that was one of the first ones we started looking at. We are going to expand beyond Runkeeper, but that's a great one. Then we started looking at other lifestyle tools, so not just things around health and wellness. And so one of the first ones we looked at was Foursquare, because again, they've got this huge venue database, and it's got a huge kind of avid user base that people that check in all over the place. In fact, you can check in at our booth out there, and you can really create this anywhere you want, and it gives us a lot of capability of tracking people into the real world and then giving them incentives to go certain places. So we integrated with Foursquare, and it's not that we're going to reward people for checking in 50 times a day. The idea is we can check them, we can give them points and rewards for checking in certain kinds of places. So it could be the category of, hey, we'll reward you if you check in at your gym 3 times over the next 2 weeks. Again, it could be the idea that you check in at a specific location, again, at Kroger, and you get a gift card for doing that. But it opens the door to be pretty much limitless to do, geo-based check-ins that lead to actual rewards in the real world, both, digitally and in real life. Other things that we're doing now, we've built a number of our own tools that integrate right into this, but over the next couple of months, we're adding in a bunch more. Nike Plus is one that's in development. We're adding in Fitbit, Map My Run, and so on and so on. The ones that I think get really interesting is when you get into some of the tools that can go a little bit beyond with devices. So Fitbit, for example, you can track, yes, your activity, but also your heart rate, your sleeping. You can track the how well you slept, and if you start layering that data on top, it becomes really interesting. Same thing goes for things like the Wi-Fi scales and the heart rate monitors by a number of different providers. So almost all of these guys have APIs out there, and all the ones that we've partnered with do. So essentially, we're just going to link those accounts up, pull the data back, and then be able to do things with it. So what do we do with all this data? Ultimately, it's going to drive into someplace, and that someplace is really the dashboard. And so the idea is that, again, you can see kind of in the graph is that we're going to layer data on top of each other so that you can see your calorie intake, your calorie expenditure, how many miles you've run or walked, eventually how much you've slept or how good of sleep you had, how many points you've earned, the badges that you have. And we kind of put it in one place so that you can easily see what's going on. And eventually, as that data becomes deeper and richer, you'll be able to see really trends about how you're feeling and kind of how you may be able to improve, or even look historical and say, well, I felt great on that day. Why did I? And you see that, well, of course, I slept 7 hours and I went for a run. And the idea is not to tell people what to do, but kind of give them enough tools to be able to see what it is that lets them live a better life. So that was the idea with the dashboard. So ultimately, what are we doing from here? Well, we're rolling the beta out next month. And hopefully a lot of you signed up for that beta because we'll be sending you emails shortly. Our official launch is in January. That'll roll out in the US with an international launch not too long after that. We're going to work on more integrations through the end of this year and the first quarter of next year. We'll continue to expand beyond that, but that'll get us through kind of our first initial list of apps to integrate and data integrate. And then we'll kind of go from there. So that's pretty much the idea of LifeAlly, and thank you for listening to me, and I welcome any questions. Anyone? I must have done a great explanation. Yeah.
What's your revenue model? I know the beta's free.
Right.
At some point, you try to make money?
Yeah. So there's a couple different revenue sources where kind of money can come from. One is redemptions. So things like through daily deals and coupons and all those pieces, we make a percentage on all those kinds of things. The other is, there are models out there for organizations to use this, not just for the average consumer. and there's fees for that. And then there will be premium subscriptions to this as well, where you get additional savings and additional tools and resources available to you. So kind of the freemium model, but kind of doubling that up with going to orgs. And our real kind of rollout schedule is not really to go consumer to consumer one by one, but to go through distribution channels. So to go business to consumer. And in some of those, you can pick up revenue through that channel. And so that's ultimately how we're doing that. Yep.
Do you have any concerns? Did you have to take any special considerations for potential of having personally identifiable health data on your site?
Yes. It's a good question, and it was initially a really big concern. I mean, it's still a concern in terms of okay, I'll wrap up here. But yeah, we had to go through what's that? Oh, okay, yeah. So the question was, were there concerns about personal health data? And I guess security around that, privacy concerns, and yes. I mean, ultimately, we met with a bunch of HIPAA specialists to make sure that we necessarily wouldn't have to be a business associate of HIPAA for that to be something we had to do. There's a lot of kind of hoops we have to go through. Security is huge, and ultimately, we are not exposing any data back to organizations, only your own personal information back to you. But we've taken a lot of countermeasures as it relates to security just to handle that. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
So Adam, every user to allow LifeAlly is an authenticated user or used for anonymous?
Yeah, so you can come to the site and view some information without being logged in. So there will be some non-authenticated traffic. To get to certain features, you must create an account. But we didn't want to completely put a wall there. You know, we didn't want to completely stop someone from sharing it on Facebook, and you click and you're like, oh, I have to join. So we made it so there are lots of pieces of information that are available, but to get to that richer level of data and to any of the personalization and linking of accounts and a lot of the reward system, you have to create an account. And so the idea is that if we create enough value there that they actually will register. Also, if we make it as easy as possible. Anything else? No? All right. Thank you.